The massive flagship of the Xeric Empire, a dark and menacing ship, slowly emerged from the depths of space. It wasn't just a warship, it was a symbol of the Empire's power, capable of wiping out entire planets with its advanced weapons. The Xeric Empire had traveled far across the galaxy, and now they had finally arrived at Earth. The plan was simple, a diplomatic mission. They would land, make their demands, and Earth would either submit or face the consequences. The Xeric believed Earth, a small, relatively young civilization in the vast expanse of the universe, would be easy to control. They thought that humans, with their outdated technology, would be no match for their superior might. But what the Xeric didn't know was that Earth was not as defenseless as they believed. The humans had been preparing for years, ever since they had discovered the true nature of alien life in the galaxy. Earth's military forces were not fully advanced compared to the alien empires, but they had one thing no other species could understand: determination. When the Xeric flagship entered Earth's atmosphere, no one was prepared for the speed at which things would escalate. Earth's military command was caught off guard. The defenses were set up for a peaceful interaction, not a full-scale attack. Despite this, a small human task force, led by the seasoned captain, General Pierce, was deployed to deal with the situation. They were vastly outgunned and under-equipped, but they knew that they couldn't let the aliens have their way. The task force quickly launched their outdated fighters into space. These were old ships, relics of a bygone era, not at all a match for the Xeric warship. But the humans had something else in mind: strategy. The plan was to use their knowledge of the terrain, the space station, and their limited but effective cloaking technology to surprise the alien invaders. It was a risky plan, but the humans had no choice. As the human fighters made their way into space, the first shots rang out. A burst of laser fire from the Xeric flagship blasted into the empty space, narrowly missing one of the human ships. The Xeric fleet opened fire, launching a deadly barrage of energy beams and plasma missiles at the unsuspecting human forces. The space around Earth's station erupted in explosions. The battle had begun. The humans fought fiercely, using every advantage they could find. Despite their old technology, they knew how to move quickly, how to use their surroundings, and how to outsmart their enemy. The battle quickly turned into a chaotic dance, with humans darting in and out of the cover of debris and asteroids, launching quick strikes against the Xeric ships. They used EMP blasts to disable the Xeric shields temporarily, allowing their ships to get in close enough for a few devastating hits. The aliens were shocked. Their advanced weapons and shield systems were far superior to the human fighters, but the humans were proving to be far more resourceful than they had ever imagined. The Xeric fleet struggled to adapt to the unpredictable tactics of the human forces. Each time they thought they had the humans cornered, the human ships would disappear, reappearing with another surprise attack. But then, disaster struck. The Xeric flagship locked onto the human fleet with a powerful targeting system. In an instant, one of the human ships, piloted by Captain Harris, was obliterated in a fiery explosion. Harris had been one of the best pilots, and his death sent a shockwave through the remaining human fighters. This loss weighed heavily on the remaining human forces, yet they pushed forward, knowing they had no choice. Their backs were against the wall, and Earth's survival was in their hands. General Pierce, the leader of the human task force, gave the order to continue the assault, despite the mounting losses. The humans couldn't afford to retreat. The Xeric commander, Kralik, watched the battle unfold from the safety of his command center aboard the flagship. He was infuriated by the humans' tenacity. He had expected an easy victory, but now he saw that they were not the weak, defenseless species they had assumed them to be. They were a challenge, and Kralik hated being challenged. He ordered his forces to increase the intensity of the attack. But even as the battle raged on, something unexpected began to happen. The human ships, though fewer in number, were starting to land more precise, more powerful strikes. The Xeric fleet, in their arrogance, had underestimated the resourcefulness of the humans. They had failed to realize that the strength of humanity lay not in their technology, but in their will to fight. As the battle escalated, the human forces launched their final strike. A group of fighters, cloaked under the cover of debris, made their way to the Zirac flagship. With precision, they disabled the ship's main power core, sending a ripple of explosions through the alien vessel. The flagship began to break apart, and the Zirac fleet, seeing their leader's ship in peril, was thrown into disarray. The humans, though exhausted and battered, had won the first round. The Zirac fleet was forced to retreat, leaving Earth's space station in shambles, but with a glimmer of victory. As the debris floated in space, the human survivors gathered their forces, knowing that the war had just begun. Amidst the wreckage, a somber mood settled over the humans. They had achieved a victory, but at a heavy cost. Captain Harris was gone, and many others had fallen in the battle. It was a hard-earned victory, but it was enough to send a powerful message to the Zirac. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The loss of Captain Harris hit the humans hard. He had been more than just a soldier. He had been a symbol of their resistance, their will to fight. His sacrifice reminded them of the stakes at play. The humans knew they couldn't afford to let the Zirac Empire return for a second wave. And so, as the survivors of the battle drifted in the vast emptiness of space, they made a vow to continue fighting. They had learned a valuable lesson that day: do not anger humanity. It was a lesson that would not be lost on the Zirac Empire, and it would be one that the humans would carry with them for the rest of the war. The first encounter had ended, but the war was far from over. The battle had only just begun, and humanity had shown the galaxy that they would not be easily defeated. The Zirac Empire had learned a hard truth that day. Earth's strength lay not in its weapons, but in its people, and humanity would fight to protect their home, no matter the cost. As the human forces regrouped and prepared for the challenges ahead, one thing was clear: the war for Earth's survival had only just begun, and humanity's story had only just begun to unfold. The Zirac Empire, furious after their initial defeat, was determined to crush the humans once and for all. Their commander, Kralik, stood in the heart of his flagship, fists clenched in anger as he watched the humans' unexpected resistance. He had underestimated them, but now he was making plans for retaliation. The Zirac forces, massive and technologically advanced, would not fall to such an inferior species. Kralik issued a new command. The alien forces would land and launch a direct attack on Earth's central cities, hoping to break the spirit of humanity once and for all. But as the Zirac fleets descended upon Earth's largest cities, they were met with something they hadn't anticipated: human resistance stronger than they ever thought possible. The humans, despite their limited technology, had an unwavering will to survive. Their cities had been prepared for an invasion, but the military was still dealing with the aftermath of the initial space battle. No matter, humans had always been resourceful. In the heart of the city, the humans put up a resistance unlike any the Zirac had ever faced. Guerrilla warfare tactics, something the Zirac had never encountered before, quickly turned the tide in humanity's favor. The humans, with their knowledge of the land and urban environment, used every advantage to strike at the Zirac forces. The alien invaders, who were accustomed to fighting in the open spaces of space and foreign planets, found themselves in a hostile environment they could not control. As the Zirac troops marched through the streets, human soldiers, camouflaged in the shadows, set traps and ambushed them at every turn. Makeshift weapons, homegrown bombs, electrical shocks, and even improvised anti-aircraft missiles were used to devastating effect. One of the most intense battles took place in a towering, futuristic cityscape where alien soldiers patrolled the dark alleys, unaware of the humans waiting for them. A small human squad, led by Sergeant Annika, was tasked with taking down an important Zirac supply post in the city. Using their knowledge of the city's layout, the squad used narrow streets, rooftops, and underground passages to stay hidden and move swiftly. They avoided direct confrontation, relying on hit-and-run tactics. As the Xerec soldiers walked into an alley, they suddenly heard the deafening crack of gunfire, followed by explosions from hidden grenade traps. The aliens, caught off guard, scrambled for cover, but they were no match for the human squad's relentless surprise attacks. Annika's squad, though outnumbered and under-equipped, used their guerrilla tactics to inflict massive damage on the Xerec forces. They worked like shadows, striking fast and retreating into the depths of the city before the aliens could react. The battle raged through the streets, moving from one district to another. Human soldiers fought valiantly, their spirits lifted by the knowledge that they were not just defending their cities, they were fighting for their survival. As the Xerec forces grew frustrated, they began to lose their grip on the city. The humans' determination was proving to be their greatest weapon. However, it wasn't long before the aliens realized that their initial expectations had been shattered. The Xerec, with all their advanced technology, were being outsmarted at every turn. Kralik, furious and desperate to regain control, ordered the deployment of even more troops, but the human tactics only grew bolder. A brutal chase ensued through the city as Annika and her squad fought their way through a maze of streets, being pursued by alien soldiers who were now more determined than ever to capture or kill them. The humans moved like ghosts in the night, darting between alleyways and across rooftops, using the city's architecture to their advantage. The Xerec soldiers followed, their weapons ready, but they couldn't match the speed and ingenuity of the humans. The chase reached a boiling point when Annika's squad was cornered by a group of Xerec forces. The humans, trapped in a dead-end alley, prepared for a last stand. Just as the aliens closed in, a new human strike force arrived on the scene. A flurry of gunfire erupted as the fresh reinforcements charged in, rescuing Annika's squad. The sudden appearance of the new troops sent the Xerec soldiers into disarray. In the chaos, Annika and her squad managed to escape, but not without heavy losses. They had accomplished their mission, destroying the Xerec supply post, but it had come at a great cost. Amid the destruction, another tragic moment unfolded. Captain Harris, a seasoned soldier who had been a beacon of hope for the human forces, sacrificed himself to save his comrades. His decision to hold off a wave of advancing Xerec soldiers gave the others the time they needed to escape. Captain Harris had always been a symbol of hope and courage, and his death sent shockwaves through the human ranks. His companions, his fellow soldiers, vowed to honor his sacrifice by continuing the fight. The emotional toll of the battle was immense. As the remaining humans regrouped and mourned the loss of their brothers and sisters, the realization hit them harder than ever. The fight for Earth would be long, painful, and filled with loss. But they had no choice. Earth had become their home, and they would protect it at all costs. Meanwhile, Kralik, watching from his flagship as the human resistance continued to defy him, began to realize the enormity of the challenge ahead. The Xerec Empire had conquered dozens of planets, but they had never encountered a species like the humans. They were unpredictable, fierce, and incredibly resilient. Despite the odds, the humans refused to bow down. It was clear to Kralik that the Xerec Empire would need a different strategy if they hoped to break humanity's will. The Xerec commander, whose arrogance had been his downfall in the initial battle, now found himself facing an enemy unlike any other. The humans, despite their lack of advanced technology, were proving that willpower, determination, and resourcefulness were far stronger than any weapon. Kralik knew that if they did not change tactics soon, the Xerec Empire would suffer a humiliating defeat. As the dust settled and the humans regrouped, they took a moment to reflect on their victories and losses. It was clear that Earth's struggle was just beginning. The alien invasion was far from over, but humanity had shown the Xerec Empire one thing: do not underestimate them. The humans were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their very existence, and they would not give up easily. The war for Earth's future was only just beginning, and the Xerec Empire had learned a hard lesson. The humans would not fall so easily. The Xerec Empire, humiliated and enraged by humanity's surprising resistance, had finally decided to take the fight to Earth with everything they had. No more half measures, no more underestimating the humans. This time, the Xeric Empire was bringing its full-scale invasion, and Earth's survival hung by a thread. The initial days of the invasion had been brutal. Xeric ships, sleek and menacing, moved into Earth's orbit, their weapons trained on the planet below. The Xeric commander, Kralik, who had witnessed the failures of his initial assault, knew that this time there would be no retreat. Their objective was clear: crush the human resistance and annihilate any hope of survival. Earth's military forces, stretched thin and battered from the previous battles, tried their best to mount a defense, but the Xeric were relentless. They systematically began targeting Earth's major military bases, launching orbital bombardments that tore apart cities, airfields, and key infrastructure. Entire regions were wiped off the map in a matter of hours as the Xeric's superior firepower pummeled the Earth's defenses into submission. The human resistance, now reduced to scattered units fighting for survival, was at its breaking point. Yet, even as the sky above Earth burned with explosions and the ground below shook with the impact of Xeric fire, something unexpected happened. Humanity refused to bow down. Amidst the chaos, a quiet determination settled over the surviving soldiers. They had been pushed to the brink, but they still fought, not just for survival, but for something greater: the future of their world. On the ground, human soldiers fought valiantly against overwhelming odds. As alien warships launched relentless bombardments from above, the resistance units used everything at their disposal to fight back. Old tactics, guerrilla warfare, and underground resistance networks were proving effective, but it was not enough to turn the tide. The Xeric forces, despite their setbacks, were too powerful. But humanity had one last ace up its sleeve. Amidst the devastation, the humans revealed a surprise counterattack that would change the course of the war. The resistance had secretly developed a new weapon: AI-driven drones, capable of cloaking themselves from Xeric sensors. These drones, small but deadly, were equipped with advanced weaponry that could strike without warning. The resistance launched a series of coordinated attacks using these drones, sending them deep into enemy territory. Their cloaking abilities allowed them to approach Xeric warships undetected, evading the enemy's advanced surveillance systems. As the drones closed in on a massive Xeric warship, they unleashed devastating surprise strikes that crippled its engines and weapon systems. The alien vessel, caught off guard, was rendered helpless as it drifted in space, its massive form now vulnerable to attack. In a shocking display of humanity's ingenuity, the humans successfully disabled the Xeric warship, leaving it floating in the vast emptiness of space. The destruction of the warship was a significant victory, not just for the soldiers on the ground, but for all of humanity. It proved that the human spirit, coupled with technology and quick thinking, could overcome even the most impossible odds. The sight of the destroyed Xeric warship was a powerful symbol for the human resistance. It wasn't just the destruction of an enemy vessel, it was the destruction of an invincible force that had thought it could crush humanity without mercy. The humans had shown the Xeric that their arrogance and superiority were no match for the relentless will of a species fighting for its survival. But victory came at a heavy price. As the counterattack raged on, one of Earth's most beloved leaders, General Wilkes, fell in battle. Wilkes had been the symbol of humanity's determination, a leader who had inspired millions to fight back against the alien invaders. His death, while heroic, left a gaping hole in the hearts of the human resistance. The grief was overwhelming. Wilkes had been more than just a commander. He had been the glue that held the resistance together. The loss of General Wilkes shook the human forces to their core. His death was not just a personal tragedy, but a symbol of the immense sacrifices that the humans had made, and would continue to make, if they were to stand a chance against the Xeric Empire. But even in death, Wilkes' legacy lived on. His final words, "Fight on, for Earth," echoed in the hearts of every soldier, every fighter, and every civilian who had taken up arms. His death only fueled the humans' resolve to defeat the alien invaders, to avenge the fallen, and to preserve Earth for future generations. As the battle raged on, the humans continued to defy the odds. The Zyrek forces, despite their overwhelming technological superiority, were now facing an enemy that refused to give up. Earth had become a battlefield where humans and aliens clashed in a desperate struggle for survival. The Zyrek Empire had underestimated the resilience of humanity, and now they were beginning to realize that Earth was not just a planet to conquer. It was a symbol of everything they had lost. The humans, with their AI-driven drones, cloaking technology, and relentless spirit, fought on, determined to protect their home at all costs. Each victory, no matter how small, was a step closer to defeating the Zyrek. The counterattack had given the humans a glimmer of hope, but the war was far from over. The Zyrek Empire would not give up easily. Yet, as the human forces regrouped, something shifted in the air. There was a sense of urgency, a sense that the tide was turning. With every destroyed Zyrek warship and every successful counterattack, the resistance was growing stronger, and with every loss, every sacrifice, humanity's will to fight became unbreakable. The war for Earth's survival had entered a new phase, one that would test the very limits of human endurance. But as long as there were soldiers like Annika, like Wilkes, like every man and woman who fought on the front lines, humanity would not back down. Earth was not just a planet. It was a battleground where humanity would fight for its future, no matter the cost. And the Zyrek Empire, despite its might, would soon learn that angering humanity was the greatest mistake they could ever make. The Zyrek Empire, after suffering several defeats at the hands of humanity, began to realize that brute force and overwhelming numbers were no longer enough to guarantee victory. Their confidence, once unshakable, began to crumble as the battle for Earth continued to rage on. The humans had proven themselves far more resilient than the Zyrek had ever imagined, and this resistance was starting to feel less like a fleeting rebellion and more like a genuine threat. Kralik, the Zyrek commander who had overseen the brutal onslaught against Earth, stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the data screens that showed the advancing human forces. The battle had turned against them, and the human resistance, which had started with small, guerrilla tactics, had evolved into a well-coordinated and ferocious army. Their unexpected counterattacks had been more than just irritating. Each victory for the humans made it harder for Kralik to deny the terrifying reality. Humans were not the weak, primitive species they had once thought. Kralik knew it was time to rethink his strategy. The Zyrek were technologically superior, yes, but humans had something they had underestimated: the will to fight, the courage to resist even when everything seemed lost. This stubbornness, this unyielding spirit, was something Kralik had not anticipated. Despite this realization, Kralik's subordinates were hesitant. They had seen the destruction their forces had unleashed on Earth. And now, as human reinforcements arrived in larger numbers, they could sense the shift in the tide. The Zyrek military had not been prepared for an opponent who would never back down, no matter the odds. They could hear the stories of human soldiers, fighting with everything they had, and it was starting to make them question the validity of their mission. Some of Kralik's top officers were now quietly muttering about retreating, seeing the futility of their position. But Kralik, driven by his pride and the command of his emperor, refused to pull back just yet. As Kralik ordered a strategic regrouping of his forces, the human resistance surged forward. New reinforcements, including skilled pilots, advanced technologies, and more powerful weapons, joined the battle on the human side. It was no longer a fight for survival alone. Humanity was now on the offensive. The humans had learned from their earlier victories and used the chaos to launch a full-scale assault on the Zyrek mothership, the heart of the alien invasion. It was a bold and desperate move, but it was the only way to push back the Zyrek and finally end the invasion. The battle around the mothership was unlike anything Earth had ever seen. As human ships surged toward the enemy fleet, explosions lit up the sky, and gunfire rained down from both sides. The human fleet, despite being smaller and less advanced than the Zirek Armada, fought with a relentless fury. Their battle tactics were unconventional, and their strategies seemed unpredictable. It was this very unpredictability that kept the Zirek on edge. Amidst the chaos, something unexpected began to happen. Alien soldiers, who had fought without question for the Zirek Empire, began to hesitate. The sight of humans fighting with such raw determination, knowing they might not survive, started to shake the resolve of the Zirek forces. These soldiers had been told that they were superior, that humanity was weak and would crumble before their might. But what they saw on the battlefield told a different story. The humans weren't just fighting for victory. They were fighting for something deeper, something worth dying for. Their planet, their families, their way of life. Thrax, a seasoned Zirek soldier who had been part of the invasion force since the very beginning, stood frozen on the deck of his ship, watching the human resistance fight with unparalleled bravery. His heart raced as he realized that the humans were not the easy prey his commanders had made them out to be. Instead, they were fierce warriors, willing to lay down their lives to protect what they loved. It was a concept foreign to Thrax and his kind. As the battle raged on, Thrax began to question everything he had been taught about humanity. He had seen comrades fall, their bodies torn apart by the relentless human firepower, and yet the humans never stopped fighting. With each human soldier that died, their comrades only grew more determined. They fought as though their very survival depended on it. And in a way, it did. The humans were no longer just defending their planet. They were protecting the future of their species. A deep conflict stirred inside Thrax. He had always followed orders without question, but now he couldn't help but wonder if the Zirek Empire had made a terrible mistake. He had witnessed human courage up close, and it stirred something within him that he could no longer ignore. Thrax began to question the very purpose of the Zirek's mission on Earth. Was it truly worth it? Was the destruction of an entire species worth the cost of victory? He could not reconcile the humanity he saw on the battlefield with the ruthless conquest that his superiors had ordered. In a moment of clarity, Thrax made a decision that would change everything. He would no longer fight for the Zirek Empire. He would defect. Thrax left his post and made his way to the human lines. It wasn't easy. He had to dodge Zirek patrols and avoid being discovered by his own kind. But his resolve was unwavering. The human soldiers, initially shocked by the sight of an alien soldier defecting, soon realized that this wasn't just any soldier. Thrax had been on the front lines of the Zirek forces for months. His knowledge of their tactics, their technology, and their weaknesses could help turn the tide of the war. The moment Thrax stepped into the human camp, the atmosphere shifted. His defection sent a powerful message to both sides. The Zirek Empire's grip on the situation was faltering. The humans saw this as a sign that their fight was not just about physical strength. It was also about the spirit of their resistance. Thrax's defection became a rallying cry for the human forces. They knew that if even one of the Zirek soldiers could see the light and turn against their empire, then they could win this war. The battle around the Zirek mothership intensified as the human forces closed in. The final assault was an all-out, explosive attempt to bring down the heart of the alien invasion. The human fleet, under the guidance of Thrax's insider knowledge, launched a coordinated attack. The sight of the massive mothership surrounded by human ships, each fighting with everything they had, was a testament to their unbreakable will. Thrax, now fighting alongside the humans, watched as his former comrades crumbled under the weight of their miscalculations. The Zirek Empire had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The destruction of the mothership was imminent, but Thrax didn't care about the victory as much as he cared about the larger truth he had come to understand. Humans could never be defeated by force alone. They would always fight back, no matter the odds. As the final battle raged on, the humans were proving one thing. They were not the weak prey the Zirek had once thought them to be. They were a force to be reckoned with, a force that would never bow down, no matter how powerful their enemy seemed. The Zurich Empire had underestimated humanity, and in the end, that was their greatest mistake. As the Zurich Empire's invasion of Earth stretched into its final phases, the war seemed on the brink of concluding, at least from the perspective of their commander, Kralik. The alien forces had been relentless in their assault, but despite their technological superiority, the human resistance had held its ground. Now, with the Zurich mothership still floating ominously above Earth, Kralik made one last desperate command. He ordered his forces to attack Earth's capital, the symbolic heart of the human resistance. Kralik was certain that if the capital fell, the humans would crumble under the weight of their loss. He believed that with their city destroyed, their morale would be shattered, and the remaining human forces would surrender. This final strike, he thought, would break the resolve of Earth's defenders. But what Kralik failed to understand was just how far the humans had come. They had learned from every battle, adapted their tactics, and grown stronger with every defeat. The fight for survival had united them in a way the Zurich could never have imagined. Now, as the final hours of the war approached, the humans prepared for their ultimate counterattack, one that would test both their resolve and their technology to its limits. With Kralik's forces advancing on Earth's capital, the humans launched their boldest move yet. They gathered all their remaining strength, including a newly developed fleet of cloaking ships, EMP weaponry, and advanced drones designed to disable the Zurich's superior shields. The stage was set for a battle that would determine the fate of both species. The space above Earth became an arena of chaos and destruction. Massive explosions rocked the skies as human ships, now equipped with cloaking technology, disappeared and reappeared in quick succession, making it nearly impossible for the Zurich forces to track them. Meanwhile, EMP blasts streaked through the air, temporarily disabling the Zurich's advanced weapons and shields, leaving their ships vulnerable to human attacks. The human forces fought with every ounce of strength they had, their ships weaving through the oncoming fire as they relentlessly pushed toward the Zurich mothership. The battle was a whirlwind of destruction, laser fire lighting up the void, ship after ship breaking apart in a spectacular display of fiery debris. The Zurich mothership, once thought invincible, was slowly but surely taking damage. Human pilots, whose skill had been honed through countless battles, targeted the weaknesses in the alien vessel's defenses, slowly breaking through its once impenetrable shields. In the midst of this grand space battle, the humans launched their most daring move yet. A small group of human soldiers, led by Lieutenant Sanders, infiltrated the Zurich mothership. It was a suicide mission, but their determination was unyielding. Sanders and his team fought their way through the alien corridors, battling Zurich soldiers in close-quarters combat as they made their way toward the control room. The soldiers knew that the success of their mission was critical to the survival of Earth, but they were prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice if necessary. Inside the mothership, chaos reigned as human soldiers engaged in brutal, hand-to-hand combat with the Zurich forces. The aliens were stronger, faster, and better equipped, but the humans had something that couldn't be matched: sheer determination. Every alien soldier that fell only fueled the resolve of the human fighters, who knew that their planet's survival depended on them. Lieutenant Sanders, a key figure in the human resistance, led the charge to disable the mothership's power core. He fought with unrelenting fury, his heart filled with a singular purpose: to save Earth and end the Zurich threat once and for all. But as he reached the final control room, disaster struck. A Zurich officer, seeing the humans so close to victory, launched a surprise attack, and in the ensuing chaos, Lieutenant Sanders was fatally wounded. The death of Sanders sent shockwaves through the human forces. He had been a leader, a symbol of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. His sacrifice was heartbreaking, but it also lit a fire in the hearts of those who had fought alongside him. Sanders had given everything for the mission, and now it was up to the rest of the resistance to carry on his legacy and finish what they had started. As Sanders lay dying, he whispered words of encouragement to his team, urging them to keep fighting. His last words resonated deeply with the soldiers around him, reminding them that the war wasn't just about winning. It was about protecting their homes, their families, and everything they held dear. Sanders' death, though devastating, became a rallying cry for the human forces. They would not let his sacrifice be in vain. The battle for the mothership raged on, but now the humans were more determined than ever. They fought with the memory of Sanders driving them forward, their grief transforming into a powerful, unstoppable force. The Zirac soldiers, who had once believed that the humans were nothing more than weak prey, were now facing an enemy that refused to die, that refused to give up no matter the cost. On the battlefield, the human ships launched their final assault on the Zirac mothership. With the shields weakened and the crew demoralized by the loss of their flagship's control, the humans pushed forward with everything they had. The mothership's destruction was imminent, but the battle was not yet over. The human forces used every tactic they had learned throughout the war, launching precise strikes against the mothership's weak points. Explosions rocked the vessel as human fighters raced toward the final blow. With one final, coordinated attack, the human forces breached the mothership's core. A massive explosion ripped through the ship, and the once proud flagship of the Zirac Empire was reduced to a cloud of burning debris. The Zirac forces, now leaderless and broken, were thrown into complete disarray. The human forces had achieved the impossible. They had destroyed the Zirac mothership, the heart of the alien invasion, and dealt a devastating blow to the Empire's military might. The destruction of the mothership sent shockwaves through the Zirac ranks. Panic spread like wildfire as their forces scattered, realizing that the humans were not to be underestimated. The Zirac Empire, once so confident in their superiority, had been shattered by a species they had once considered weak. The humans had proven that even the most technologically advanced empire could be brought to its knees by the will and determination of those who refused to surrender. As the battle ended, the humans stood victorious. Earth had been saved, but the cost was high. Lieutenant Sanders' death, along with the sacrifices of countless others, left a profound impact on everyone who had fought. The memory of those lost in the battle would never be forgotten, and their courage would serve as a reminder of what humanity was capable of when united in the face of adversity. The final battle had been a turning point in human history. The Zirac Empire had underestimated humanity's resilience, and now they knew better. As the last remnants of the alien fleet retreated from Earth's atmosphere, humanity stood proud, having proven to the universe that they were not just survivors, they were fighters. The war was over. The great struggle between Earth and the Zirac Empire had finally reached its conclusion. The battle for survival had been fought on both the surface of Earth and in the vastness of space, and now, as the dust settled, humanity stood victorious. But victory had come at a great cost, and the world was left to grapple with the aftermath. On the alien side, defeat was swift and undeniable. The Zirac Empire, once so confident in their superiority, now found themselves humiliated and desperate. Kralik, the fierce commander who had once believed that the Earthlings would bow before the might of the Zirac forces, now stood before humanity in defeat. His empire had crumbled under the weight of their own arrogance, and he knew it was time to face the consequences of their actions. Kralik's surrender was a pivotal moment. The once proud Zirac Empire, a force that had swept through countless worlds with ruthless efficiency, now found themselves on their knees before the humans they had underestimated for so long. In a tense moment, Kralik, beaten and broken, raised the white flag of surrender. The Zirac Empire had admitted their failure. They sought peace, a peace they had never imagined possible when the war first began. The humans, though victorious, had not let their triumph cloud their judgment. Despite the devastation the Zirac had caused, they chose to extend an olive branch rather than exact vengeance. They had learned a valuable lesson throughout this war. Strength is not only found in victory, but in the capacity for mercy. As Kralik and his surviving forces stood before the leaders of Earth, they were greeted not with scorn or punishment, but with the chance to rebuild and make amends. In the days that followed, the Xerac soldiers who had once been the aggressors were now guests on Earth, their presence a symbol of the fragile peace that had been forged. The humans, led by their wise and compassionate leaders, set aside the pain of the past and focused on the future. They had proven themselves to be more than just fierce warriors. They were compassionate, understanding, and capable of forging a better future, even with those who had been their enemies. The rebuilding process began almost immediately. Earth, which had once been ravaged by the fierce battles and destruction of the war, started to heal. Cities that had been reduced to rubble were slowly but surely rebuilt, the scars of war fading as the determination of humanity to rebuild their world shone through. But it wasn't just Earth that was rebuilding. It was the entire galaxy, for the humans' actions had resonated beyond their homeworld. The once feared Xerac forces now worked alongside the humans to help repair the damage they had caused, a symbol of the new alliance that had formed. The humans had made it clear that their victory was not about domination, but about peace. The Xerac soldiers, once so fierce and unyielding, now worked side by side with their former enemies, learning from them and contributing to the restoration of Earth. Some had even come to admire the resilience and strength of the human spirit, recognizing the greatness that lay in the people they had once sought to conquer. A new chapter in galactic history had begun. Earth, which had once been seen as just another planet, was now a beacon of hope and strength. Humans had not only survived, but had triumphed, not by crushing their enemies, but by proving their humanity, showing that they were more than just warriors. They were leaders, peacemakers, and ultimately, the protectors of the galaxy. The most powerful symbol of this new era was the first joint human-alien colony. Located on a remote moon in the outer reaches of the galaxy, this colony would serve as a testament to the power of unity and cooperation. Humans and Xerac, once bitter enemies, now worked together in harmony to build something greater than either could have achieved alone. The colony represented the beginning of a new era, one where war was no longer the answer, and where different species could coexist and thrive together. As the first Xerac soldiers left Earth, their heads held low in shame, but with a glimmer of hope in their hearts, the humans watched with a sense of quiet satisfaction. The war had been long and brutal, but the lessons learned from it would shape the future for generations to come. The humans had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they would rise to the challenge, not just with strength, but with compassion. In the final moments of the war, as Kralik and his remaining soldiers departed from Earth's atmosphere, the human leaders gathered to address the people of Earth and the galaxy. The message was clear, and it resonated deeply with all who heard it. A human leader, their voice steady but filled with emotion, delivered the closing words of the war. "We did not seek war, but now that it's over, we will ensure it never happens again." These words, simple but profound, were the perfect end to the saga of humanity's victory. They signify that while war may sometimes be inevitable, the true measure of a species lies in how it rises from the ashes of conflict. The humans had shown that, no matter the challenges they faced, they would always strive to build a better world, not through destruction, but through understanding. As the Xerac Empire left Earth behind, humanity stood tall, not only as victors, but as a shining example to the universe that mercy, compassion, and the will to rebuild can turn even the most dire of situations into opportunities for growth. The war had been won, but the true victory lay in the lessons learned and the alliances forged in its aftermath. Earth was no longer just a planet among many, it was the home of a new order. The old wounds of war had been healed, and the galaxy now looked to Earth not as a symbol of conquest, but as a beacon of hope for all species, a place where peace was no longer just a dream, but a reality. And as the final ships departed, the people of Earth knew that this peace would be guarded fiercely, not through weapons, but through understanding, compassion, and the strength to always do what was right.